Think about the past few months. A lot of significant things have happened that you probably can't even remember now. The World Series, Halloween, LeBron James made his Lakers debut, wildfires killed almost 100 people and destroyed an entire town in California, a gunman killed 12 people at the Borderline Bar and Grill in Thousand Oaks, California, NASA's InSight mission landed on Mars, Thanksgiving, President George H.W. Bush died, the midterm elections, the U.S. government shutdown, Christmas, New Year's, the Super Bowl. Though some may seem like distant memories, these are all things that have happened since October 13th, 2018, and a simple reminder that time flies. However, for the family and loved ones of Karlie Guse, time has done anything but fly. In fact, for her mother, time has virtually stood still since October 13th, with each passing day somehow seeming longer than the day before. Now, before we go any further, let's get everybody up to speed. We're going to go through all this in more detail later, but here's the basic facts as we know them now. On the morning of October 13th, 2018, 16-year-old Karlie Guse vanished from her home in Chalfont Valley, just outside of Bishop, California. The night before she went missing, Karlie's stepmother Melissa picked her up from a friend's house. According to all reports, Karlie had smoked pot and was acting disoriented and bizarre that evening. So bizarre that her stepmother decided to sleep next to the teen in bed in order to keep an eye on her. However, when Melissa woke up, Karlie was gone. 3 witnesses reported seeing Karlie walking alone that morning, but there's been no sign of her since. What happened to Karlie Guse probably has a fairly simple answer, but finding that answer, well, that's complicated. So for the first episode of Missing the Truth, we're going to keep things simple. Before we dive headfirst into the bizarre cast of characters and circumstances that have turned Karlie's case into a spectacle, we're going to hear the story of Karlie's disappearance through the words of our own mother, Lindsay. Now remember, this is Lindsay's point of view and her recollection of what has occurred. I promise, some will see things very differently and tell a completely different story. But in order to tell any story involving a child, there's really no better place to start than with Mom. Hi, Lindsay. Thanks for taking the time to speak with me. How are you doing today?
Just hit and miss with emotions, but I'm okay. It's so unpredictable. I mean, even when I'm okay, I'm not. It sits there like stagnant in my mind and my body that something's not right.
Let's go back to October 13th. How'd you find out that Karlie was missing?
It was 9:35 in the morning that I received a call from her father. And the first words out of his mouth, and I mean, of course, the first feeling of me getting a phone call was like, uh-oh, because we didn't talk all the time unless there was something wrong, you know? Or if we were, seeing about, oh, can we, come and, exchange children, it wasn't ever, we didn't call just to talk and be friendly with each other. But I got that call that morning, and the first thing out of his mouth was, Lindsay, Karlie's gone. And I said, what do you mean she's gone? Explain to me what do you mean by that? He goes, well, she's gone. She's not here. She's gone. And I said, well, what led up to this situation? Did she come home last night? Was she with her boyfriend? What led up to this gone? Because gone to me is a huge word. It can mean a lot. And so he got off the phone with me. I had asked him, I said, did you call her boyfriend? Did you call Kane, which is our son, our oldest son? And they were close. Karlie and Kane are very close. And so I said, did you call Kane? And he's like, no, I haven't called him. So I got off the phone with him. I made a few phone calls. The first phone call I made was to my son. He was just waking up. He had had his wisdom teeth pulled the night before, so he was kind of, under the weather. And I told him, I said, have you seen your sister? And he's like, no. He's like, why? I said, because your dad just called me and told me she's gone. He's like, what the hell? So he got in his car with his girlfriend and they went out looking. Like, they drove up to Karlie's residence and started driving around and, see sheriff cars out there and whatnot. It was probably about a 5-minute call, maybe 10 minutes. I'm not exactly 100% certain. The time was just kind of, I don't know, compressed into a matter of seconds. He said that Karlie was at a party and she smoked pot and that she became paranoid. I guess Melissa went to go pick her up, and Karlie was just really paranoid. I don't know what paranoid meant, but scared of something. And so that's all I got from him in the first phone call. So I made a couple phone calls, got a hold of Karlie's boyfriend, and tried to see what was going on there through text messaging, because I didn't have his phone number. So it was through Messenger on Facebook. Messaged him a few times, then he sent me his phone number. So then I started communicating through text and calls. I called Zach back, Karlie's dad, and I said, have you heard anything? And he's like, no. And he was really distraught, really frustrated. And he's like, I've got to go. He's like, I just broke my fucking truck. I got to go. Fuck. And he's screaming. And I'm like, well, where are you? And he hung up. And so a few minutes after that, I say a few, maybe 10 minutes after that, I called him again. And I was like, hey, is your truck okay? What's going on? Where were you? And he's like, I was just out looking. I don't know. He didn't want to talk about his truck. And then that's when it was 6 hours into Karlie missing, and we decided we needed to leave. We needed to go down there because, it was starting to turn late afternoon, and we weren't going to just, wait here for something to be done. And so we drove down there, and it takes us about 2.5, 3 hours to get there, depending on the weather. As soon as we got there, there was a deputy that was walking up, and I went up to him and introduced myself as the biological mother. And he pretty much walked through me, didn't really have much to say to me, and went straight over to Zach and Melissa. And, I think it was just Zach there at that moment. It didn't feel right. I was like, wow, I'm invisible. And he told us, he's like, oh, there's one more thing I need to do before the search ends tonight. And that's, I need to go in the house and clear the residence to make sure Karlie's not in there. And I said, what? I said, you guys haven't even been in the residence yet? They hadn't even gotten my daughter's cell phone yet. It's 6 o'clock in the evening by now. So I was, of course, upset because of the way the investigation was being done.
Was there any hesitation or resistance by anyone when the officer said he needed to clear the house?
No, there wasn't any hesitation. He went in there. He was only in there maybe a matter of 5 minutes. It was really kind of unsettling. Everything about this is unsettling.
Well, considering the fact that there aren't any clues, I'm assuming the officer didn't find anything. So what happened next?
I believe he came out to the garage where we were all standing, and that's when he retrieved Karlie's cell phone.
Did you get a chance to see her phone?
Yes, I did. I didn't touch it or anything, but I know earlier on in that morning, Zach and Melissa got the password from Karlie's boyfriend, and they got into the phone. And I asked them, I said, well, what'd you guys see in there? Anything to give, a red flag as to where she could be? And they said, no, we saw, or everything up until Karlie was picked up by Melissa was deleted off of the phone.
So any clues as to what she may or may not have been up to in the days leading up to her disappearance was just gone?
I believe that's not the truth. I believe Melissa and Zach deleted it, but that's just my opinion.
Wow, that's really interesting. Do you know, was this a habit of hers, erasing her phone?
I do know that Karlie's boyfriend did say that she was pretty organized with her phone. She liked to keep her text messages cleared, she didn't keep her conversations open. So, I understand that Karlie was really neat and organized, so maybe that was just her way of, who knows, I don't even know. But yeah, it's strange.
So the officer cleared the house. There's no visible clues on the cell phone. That's really not much to go on. Was that the end of the search for that night?
Yeah, I believe that was the end of their search that night. It was pretty windy that night, and they said that search dogs were unable to detect a scent. They were using a night radar, and they couldn't catch like any heat sensory or anything like that because the wind was obviously, disrupting that. So they called off the search. It was pretty early. I want to say like maybe 8:30. We were only there maybe 3 hours, I think, if that. There really wasn't much to do, just stand around and kind of wait.
How was everyone handling the situation? That must have been a tense atmosphere. Did you notice any behavior that was weird or out of the ordinary?
Melissa seemed normal, as normal as I can recall. She seemed a little adamant about wanting me to hear the 8-minute audio that she had played for everyone that was there. I had asked her at first that I wasn't ready. I didn't want to hear it. And she, specifically said, well, you're going to hear it whether you like it or not. And so I sat and listened. And then I asked her, I said, well, why didn't you call 911? And she walked away. She's like, she smoked pot, Lindsay.
Yeah, there's been a lot of rumor and speculation surrounding that recording. So did Karlie indeed ask Melissa to call 911?
Yes, she did. She said, am I going to be okay? Call 911. And then I also recently reviewed an interview with Zach and Melissa, and there's also a 23-minute long audio or video of my daughter's behavior, but coincidentally the FBI, washed her phone away. So they didn't do that to mine. Why would they do that to hers?
By all accounts, Karlie smoked pot with her friends that night, but nobody else reported being disoriented. Do you know if Karlie had ever smoked pot before this night? Yeah,
she had smoked pot prior. She actually, recently, prior to all this, had just gotten in trouble with her school. They noticed she had been under the influence of marijuana, so they brought her, sent her to like a continuation school on campus. Not really a continuation school, but kind of a, for the moment kind of school to kind of seclude them from whatever else is going on. And she was telling me, she's like, I quit smoking pot, Mom, and I feel so much better. She told me this all prior to any of this happening. And I said, that's great. Good job. Like, that's awesome. I hope you do feel better. My daughter and I are really close, so it's really hard.
After hearing the audio, do you believe your daughter was under the influence of marijuana that night?
No, it definitely wasn't marijuana that she was under the influence of. Well, I can't say it wasn't, but it definitely, she was fearful of something, and it was a confusion state. It wasn't, they say disoriented, and, she was acting disoriented and paranoid. Well, from my hearing the audio, she was definitely confused, definitely concerned if she was going to be okay, but not, I don't know. She said she was scared in the audio. She said, Mom, in the audio, and Melissa goes, I'm Melissa, silly. And she goes, oh, I'm sorry, I'm just really scared. And that's, of course, what breaks my heart, because she was calling for me. And I wasn't there. I wasn't there to help her. I don't know what she's scared of. And it's just hard for me to hear that. And that's been one of the hardest parts, is because that's the moment I hear her call for me.
Melissa said she slept in Karlie's bed because she was concerned about her. Do you know if they had a close relationship or that would be a normal thing?
No, it's not normal at all. Like, after listening and reviewing their interview, it's definitely, the stories are so all over the place. They said that they got up 3 or 4 times from her bed and was back and forth in the living room watching movies and okay, let's go to bed, and okay, let's go watch a movie. And and perhaps that is her behavior that night, but the thing that really stood out to me was the fact that she claimed the FBI, wiped her phone clean, but yet she still had the 8-minute, 43-second audio of my daughter. So why would they take the 23-minute audio or video and not the 8-minute, 43-second one? It didn't make sense. So I call BS on that. Day 2 was awful for me because I had woke up in the middle of the night all night long crying and just, sick to my stomach and, what's going on. And we had drove to Zach and Melissa's house, and, my nerves were just shot. I mean, the uncertainty of where your baby is and, who's responsible for this, and all the emotions just roll up into one. So that morning I went there, and Melissa was on her phone all morning and, had friends showing up to the house to, give her support. There were people coming over saying, "So sorry about your daughter." And I would go up to these people and say, "That's my daughter," and they'd look at me like I was a toxic plague. Okay. That morning I asked Melissa, I said, "I know this sounds kind of bizarre." I said, "But can I take a bath in your bathtub?" Because, my nerves were shot. And at first she was really and then she's like, "Yeah, it's been 45 minutes. I didn't think there'd be hot water, but yeah, you can take one." So I took a 2.5-hour tub soak in her bathtub, and I gulped a half a bottle of Pepto-Bismol down just because my stomach was shot. And I fell asleep in the bathtub. During that time, Melissa's out talking to my boyfriend and telling him that I need to get my shit together for Karlie. And he goes, "You realize Karlie is her daughter, right? She's handling this the best to her capability. I don't know how to handle this. This has never happened. I wasn't given a choice in this matter." I got out of the bath, kind of got myself together, and that's when her and her friends were making flyers and everything. And so that day we kind of just, went back to my mom's house and stayed down there because she was busy with all her friends coming and going and whatnot. And we did a little bit of searching that morning.
The events surrounding Karlie's disappearance take place in 2 neighboring counties, Inyo and Mono. Earlier you said when you arrived at Zach's house, which is located in Mono, that the sheriff treated you as though you were invisible and that you were upset with the way the investigation was being handled. Has Inyo County been involved in the investigation at all?
Well, they're dealing with their part of the county, the boys that were last seen with my daughter the night before, they're taking care of that because they're in Inyo County. So, I mean, yeah, Inyo County's, they've assisted in the case, but they're not on the case. Mono County's failed to reach out to agencies that are offering to help. The district attorney, they could have been brought in, but they're saying that Mono County's saying that the DA doesn't have the resources or anything for a missing persons case. And
so, yeah, what are your options if the county's saying they don't have the resources for this type of case and they're refusing to reach out for help?
I reached out to all the congressmen of California. I got a response back from Dianne Feinstein saying she couldn't do anything, which I knew she wouldn't. But and then I did get a call back from Paul Cook's office, and he's the one that got the FBI in on it immediately. And from my understanding, the polygraphs were done within just a few days of that happening.
Has the FBI asked you to take a polygraph as well?
I've never even been contacted by the FBI on it, other than the day that they came out to my mom's house and did the interview with Scobie, which is the investigator.
When did you last speak with Karlie?
Well, I talked to her through a text message 2 days before she went missing. So it was the 11th. It's actually really hard to look at all my messages with her.
Do you remember what it was about?
Oh, well, it was just, we were always so sarcastic with each other, and I sent her a text message of a picture that my cat just caught a mouse, because, we just moved up here, and we never had mice in Bakersfield, and, we live out in the country here, and there's mice here, and so I sent her a picture of our cat catching a mouse, and she laughed at it, and she said, "That's so funny, my dog Breeze has been catching mice too." And her dog Breeze is a big, pit bull. And I said, "Oh my gosh, that must look so funny." And she's like, LOL, with the laughter face, and tears. And that was all I heard. That's all I've heard from her. But we always ended our conversation with, "I love you."
Lindsay made some fairly bold claims during her interview, and there's no doubt that others will dispute many of the things she said. But this is the story as she sees it. We'd like to remind listeners that there are 2, 3, or even 4 sides to every story, and we encourage everyone to hear all sides before rushing to judgment. We've given Lindsay a chance to speak, and now we want to make sure everyone else involved in Karlie's story is given the same chance. We're also hoping that some of you will change your mind and reconsider telling your side of the story. If you're listening, you know who you are. If you want to talk, email us at info@missingthetruthonline.com. Thanks for listening to episode 1 of Missing the Truth. We haven't even begun to scratch the surface of this story. In episode 2, we'll start the journey down the rabbit hole of chaos that Karlie's disappearance has attracted over the past 3 months. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time. If you have seen Karlie or have any information regarding her whereabouts, please call the Mono County Sheriff's Office at 760-932-7549.